Again, I'm Jamie Dennis, and I'm going to talk to you today about Data Viz. And this one's going to be a little bit different. If you attended my session on Monday, well, you know what? Let's see. Let's do a little poll. And I'm going to pop up this little poll. It should pop up for you guys on your screen. Open poll. All right, did you guys get a poll pop up? You should have a poll. You can pop up. Did you attend the Monday session? Let's see who was there and who wasn't. It's not bad if you didn't make it. Great, great. Wow, you guys are, look at all you guys answering. So, wow. Well, quite a few of you did not make it on Monday. Okay, that's all right. That's, like I said, it's okay, but we still got about a third of you made it on Monday. All right, I'm going to close the poll now. I think that's enough answered. You guys can see the results here. I guess you can see them in your little poll thing. All right, I am going to now pull that away, close out the poll. So I just wanted to see who all had seen that. So some of this might be a review for the few of you, the third of you that were there on Monday. And for those of you that weren't, this is a little summary. So what I talk about is the power of visualization. So on Monday, what I covered, and for those of you, it's a reminder, is the 5 qualities of a great visualization. They're truthful, they're functional, they're beautiful, they're insightful, and they're enlightening. And if you want to know more about those, I get those from Alberto Cairo. He's a journalist and a designer in visual journalism at the School of Communications at University of Miami. And he's written several great books. And this one is from his book, The Truthful Art. And it's a really great book. I highly recommend it if you want to get into more data visualization. And then on Monday, I also gave these 10 tips. So the 10 tips were to understand your data. So before you start with visualization, you need to understand your data. You need to know your audience, who you're talking to, so that you can tailor it so you know what it is you want your audience to see or do by looking at your visualization, by using your visualization. And then you can also you can start doing your story, telling your story and doing a storyboard. And then, of course, designing for the medium. And I talked about, on Monday, I talked about designing for PowerPoint presentations or for print or for web and those kinds of things, and I touched on those. But today what I'm going to focus on, and I did cover these a little bit on Monday, but today I want to focus on number 5 through 10 that you see on there, and we're going to talk about focusing on what is important, reducing clutter, limiting fonts, and so forth. We're going to talk about all those, and I'm going to give you examples. So this one's going to be a little different. I'm going to mostly show you examples of what you can do to make things better. All right, so I'm also going to send you away with a little bit of homework. So when you go back to, I think it won't be live until 4 o'clock, so you have to sit through at least a half an hour of me, okay? But when you go back to the page that this is on, there will be a button there that says download exercises, and it'll be a little zip file. And what it is if some of you were lucky enough to attend the hands-on workshop I did at AGIC and Prescott last year, these are those same exercises. You can do them again if you want. But basically what there is, there's 3 exercises. One of them is it walks you through Excel, making a chart in Excel and doing something that you probably haven't done before in Excel, so it's giving you a little bit of exposure to things that you can do out of Excel instead of just using the default. The second one is taking a chart and making it better, and there's a couple different options in there. You can find some vizzes in there. And the third one is a map. If you were at the Monday presentation, you saw the map that was the Intermountain West map, and it's taking that one and walking you through how to improve that map. And I apologize, but that one is in ArcMap. I haven't had time to make an Arc Pro version yet, but it'll at least get you some ideas and get your feet wet. So that'll be there. All right, so what we're going to talk about is making things better. And what I want to start with, I see that the download exercise button won't show up until about 4 o'clock. So it should be there by the end of this session. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about making things better. And I'm going to start out with talking about charts, some different charts, and then we'll talk about maps later. So to start out with, I thought we would start with everybody's most favorite chart of all. And if there, anybody knows me, and I'm not sure if there's any of my MAG friends on here, but everybody knows me, my favorite chart is the pie chart. See, look, I have a t-shirt. I'm just kidding. It's really, I made a big deal about pie charts and not using them as much as they are used. And so my going away gift from MAG was this beautiful t-shirt, and I just thought it was funny to share it. Okay. It's so hard doing these things virtually. You know, I can't see you guys if you're laughing or ooh or whatever. Okay, but we're going to go on. All right. Here is a 3D chart. This is a default chart I made in PowerPoint, okay? And I just, it's a generic kind of, I did land area by ownership, all right? Now, there's a lot going on in this chart, okay? So it might be hard for you to quickly interpret this. All right, so as a reader of these, all right, you got to go back and forth and look at each slice, you know, which one is bigger. Okay, I got the gold one, that's private, yeah, and I got the green, which is BLM. Ooh, I'm not sure which one's bigger. All right, so let's see, maybe if we do this. Oh, yeah, BLM, yeah, we're focusing on BLM. So if I label them, maybe I can see and pull that one out. You know, it's really not that easy, right? So a pie chart is already making you try to compare, let me get my little laser pointer here. It's trying to make you compare angles, right, and area. Then if we add this 3D effect, it's angled, all right? It's angled in here, so it makes it even more difficult. So the ones in the back are going to look, what, smaller than they actually are. So there's all these optics going on here, right? So we can also go, oh, well, then I'll just slap on the numbers. So now you can see which one, right? Look at BLM is actually smaller than the private, okay? And I bet you probably couldn't tell between these which one was or which one wasn't bigger than the other, right? So it's just not working out here. So if you got to do 3D in charts, my one simple answer is don't, okay? Just don't. I don't even know why it's an option. They should disable it in every feature for charts. 3D is just not a good idea. So let's try a 2D version of this, all right? So here's a chart. Is it any better? Not really, because you still, right, you're still having to compare the angles and the area. So it's still difficult, even though we have the values on there. Now, one of the things you could do is you could put, we can organize it a little better by putting them in order, like from largest to smallest. And it makes it a little bit better, but still not ideal, okay? So really, pie charts, if you have maybe 2 or 3, like here's an example of a chart. If you have to do maybe 2 or 3, 4 might be pushing it, then, you know, it's probably okay. But still, in the long run, I'm going to have to say that even Windows does not like 3D pie charts, okay? Seriously, this is what happened to me last night when I was going through this presentation. Windows threw up on me and threw me a blue screen of death. So if that's not enough testimonial for you right there, then I don't know what else to tell you, okay? All right, so let's move on. Okay, so we're going to go back to this land ownership, right? Let's try it a little different way. So we have 100%. We want to try to see the different proportions in there. So we could do something like this, right? We can make it a stacked bar chart here and put the amounts on there so you can see them a little better. And let's say if we wanted to focus on BLM again, so we were doing something talking about BLM, we could also do something like this. So I'm focusing on BLM, and if I'm giving a presentation, I want to say, okay, BLM is 27%, I'm going on. This could be an ideal way to do it, right? So I can focus on that area. So this would work, but in my opinion, what I like, and people who know me probably know that this is what's going to happen next, I'd probably do something more like this, right? The horizontal bar chart makes it a lot simpler now to distinguish between the sizes and the percentages from one another. So look at how easy it is now. It's a lot easier on your eye. And plus with this, I don't need a bunch of different colors. I see Shannon asking in the chat. I do have the chat open, so I want this to be kind of interactive. So I'm stealing Shawnee's job from her. But Shannon asked, can I color graduate a pie chart to help see highest to lowest? You could, but still, I think there's better options out there. Again, I'm going to say I wouldn't do it. You could try different colors. It could work, but it's still a pie chart in the end of things, right? So getting back to this horizontal bar chart, there's a few things we could do to make this one even better, right? So again, let's go with the theory that we're talking about, BLM land, and we could again use color to our advantage and just highlight that one. And so then I have something easier. It's real easy on the eye. These do not need to be all different colors, right? I only need to highlight, focus on what's important. Remember that tip? And I can take this one step further. I have all my numbers already here on the bars, so do I need this up here? What do I need this here for? It's clutter. It's just adding clutter to my chart. So instead, I could do something like this. Now notice what I've done. I've maintained that same color scheme. I rounded off the numbers to reduce the clutter. You can quickly see which one we're talking about, and I changed my title up here to quickly pull you in what's the most important thing I want you to get out of this chart. This is what I want my audience to know, right? So that's one way you can do it, and that's a better way at data, something like that, that we had in our pie chart originally. Okay, so let's try. Now you guys cleaned up that one. Now let's try another one. Let's look at starting with the clustered columns here chart. All right, this is a chart. I did work on this one when I was at MAG, and we had this great data set about retention rates by major. So this was for ASU, seeing how many graduates who graduate from ASU by different majors that stay in Arizona. So that's what the idea was behind this. And so what we want to do is kind of clean this up to make it blend in with the color scheme and so forth of a presentation that was going on. And so to be honest with you, when I first saw this chart, I wasn't quite sure what was going on. So remember, one of the first tips I gave you is what you need to do is understand your data, right? So in order for me to make meaningful change to this chart, I need to understand what it is and what we're trying to say in this chart. So basically what it is each one of these columns represents a 5-year period, except for the last one, because that was all the data that were available was the 3-year. But it's for a 5-year period, and these are the retention rates for each year for this particular major, okay? Now, this number at the top, okay, is the total retention rate over this whole period for this major. Are you guys staying with me now? It's getting a little confusing, right? The arrow here, honestly, I don't really know what that is, except for I think that, you know, sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, so sometimes you think you want to have a flow or you want to connect the dots or something, and so I think that's probably what was happening here, but it's really, when you take a second look at it, it has no effect here, and it's just confusing because it makes you think that there should be a trend here when there really isn't, because these are all distinct different majors, right? So what I did was I took this chart and I made it a different color scheme. I sorted the majors made it alphabetical down here. This one actually has a little bit more data in it. And so then I just put the overall in the circle up here, and I got rid of that line. So it's more aesthetically pleasing. It still has a little bit more, it still has some clutter in there. But this worked for a while. And it was still kind of confusing, and I remember sitting and watching someone present this, and it had to be explained, right? And explained to the point that if you have to explain too much, then it's probably not doing the job right. So I remember thinking, okay, maybe I need to rethink this. This chart needs work. What was a better way? And I went back and I said, well, what is the point of this chart? And so the point of the chart was actually to find out the difference, how it would change from 1990 to the current, the 2017. So guess what I did? So I did something very simple. I turned it into basically a dot plot, I guess you could call this. So it's very simple. It's easy to understand. I have the retentions right here. I have the color, matches the color of the dot, so you know which one's for which year, right? And I just have the majors categories here, and you can quickly see the ones that had the biggest gains because of the distance between them, and see which one, how well everything's doing. So visually, it makes it's much simpler, it's easier on the eyes, and it tells the story the way they want it to tell, right? So think about that. Sometimes you have to go back and realize that maybe you need to make some change and rethink the way you're showing your data. We didn't need all that stuff in there, right? All right, so one more chart. So here's another one, and this was actually in a report, and I found this one on the internet on a site that's called WTF Data Viz, I think it is. Anyway, and it's an actual report because I went to get the report because I needed to understand, again, back to the beginning, we need to understand the data. So I got this report, National Mental Health Services Survey for 2016, and I was trying to make out what is going on here. I mean, you guys, I mean, I'm sure you kind of, what are you looking at? The first thing I look at is bright red, right? I see this bright red, and there's all these different colors, and I guess they decided they would do hash lines for some reason in here. It's just kind of a mishmash. So I went through and I thought, okay, let's clean up a little bit, all right? So I took out the bars that went across because we already had the numbers. Remember we did that before. So we had all the numbers on there, and I made them all solid. And so I kept looking at this, and I'm like, oh, okay, what are they trying to say here, all right? They're trying to say the median number of beds, that's the number on top of this, that are designated for mental health treatment for each facility, so each bar is a different facility type, and this is a different type of service, whether they're inpatient or residential. So basically, they're trying to compare this bar to this bar and this bar to this bar, and so on. So you're bouncing back and forth, and your eyes are, you know, your eyes are probably just a little crazy because of all the different colors. It's just kind of a mess. So I looked at this and I thought, okay, they're comparing each other. What if we did something a little different? And I went back and I did something like this. Okay, so now we can compare one to the other, and it's easy to read. I got inpatient here, residential here, and I have list the hospital in the middle. And this was something the way I did the little sheet I did in Excel, just to let you in on the secret, is these are two different charts. I turned them sideways and put them next to each other and put the words in there in Excel. It's kind of a little cheat in there. Excel ninja, I guess you'd call it. But anyway, so it's pretty effective, right? I mean, it works. It's simple. It's easy to read. I got rid of all those different colors. But there was something bothering me about this. And so like 2 days ago when I was going through these slides, I thought, you know, this isn't really the greatest of comparison because we still, you know, want to compare this to that and this to that. You still have to kind of look at the number. So what's a better way is I can overlay them, right? Now, notice that I also took the numbers off and I went back to putting this up here because I felt, and if I was doing this and this was my study, I could be wrong because it's not my data, but if it were my data and this would be my story, the more important thing would be the fact that one type, the inpatient, is different than the residential, right? So you can see the difference here in the blues and the inpatient. These are the ones that have more beds designated. And then you look at this dramatic one, the residential treatments for VA have more beds allocated for mental health. So it's pretty dramatic, and I think this one works a little better. So again, my point is the first time you do one, it may not be it may be perfect, it may work well, but then you can try something different. And for the record, the first exercise in the exercises that you get is to make one like this, is to make something similar, or at least to do an overlay. So you'll learn how to do that. All right, so that's enough for charts. Let's move on to some math, because we're already 20 minutes in here. Okay, making over math. All right, let's just go with it. I'm going to show you this map. Don't scream, guys, all right? Okay, this was not actually published anywhere or anything like that. I just came up with this map myself to make something a little bit obnoxious. I have to admit the colors are bright. I'm not really sure about the fuchsia into the Grand Canyon, but that was some hilarious thing. And my title there is Jim Facilis's favorite font I see you, Jen, in the chat. Comic Sans. And notice that how many different fonts do we have here? We have some script thing on my rose compass. We have something over here in the legend that's like Times Roman looking, some serif font, and then we have maybe Arial down here. 4 different ones, all right? Okay, I'm just going to say this. Okay, you remember how I said about pie charts? You know, I've grown to be okay with if you got to have 1 or 2 slices, you can use a pie chart. Okay, I'm going to give in on that, even though I still personally will avoid them at all costs if I can. Okay, it's just one of those things. We all have the things that pet peeves that we don't like. But Comic Sans is not something that you should have on a Mac. All right, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to put it out there. I know many people have a great affinity for its cuteness, its kind of casualness, but let me tell you about Comic Sans. Comic Sans, okay, the name itself is comic. It was made to be for comic books, all right? Okay, if you're making a poster, if you're a kindergarten or first grade teacher and you're making a little thing for your children, that's great. You can use Comic Sans all you want because it's cute, it's young, it's like that for little kids. But if you're doing a professional map or a professional flyer, okay, if you use something like Comic Sans, it's really going to diminish. You're going to lose a little bit of credibility because it just doesn't have that professional feel to it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about that. It's elementary science fair project font. Good one, Cassia. So anyway, so that's my rail against Comic Sans font. Also, your fonts need to be consistent. Have the same font, or at least the same. They need to be complementary, and just don't have too many. This north arrow is way too elaborate for a simple map like this. I know we love north arrows, and I'm guilty of you. When I first started making maps, I wanted the most beautifully elaborate north arrow ever. But, you know, some maps, depending on your map, make one that goes with it. If it's a simple map, be clean and simple. And let me talk about the scale bar a little bit. I see this a lot on maps. I see people, they put their scale bar on there and end up being real big like this. And they don't really think nothing, they don't really think much of that. Because that's kind of like the default, and well, you can see the little, maybe they're making it big enough so you can see the little divisions between each one and so forth. But really, the first thing I see sometimes I look and I'm like, whoa, there's a scale bar on that map, is because it's so big. And I think we've probably all made that mistake because by default it kind of goes on there large. But tone it down, make it the font size and so forth match the font size of the rest of your legend or even smaller. So let me show you how I remade this. So here it is, all right, it's cleaned up. The fuchsia dragon is gone. Whoever said that in there, the fuchsia dragon is gone. It's a cleaner interface. Now, did you even really notice these little icons in there? Right? Let me go back. Look they're totally lost in here because there's so much going on. It's just chaos, right? So go back to the cleaned up version. Now I can see this is about recreation areas, what types they are. That's the point of my map. I need those to be the focus of my map, right? My north arrow, I have a simple, clean north arrow. My scale bars are nice and small, tidy, neat right down in here. So it's clean and neat. And don't be afraid of white space, okay? If you have some white space on your map, don't be afraid of white space. It's okay to leave some stuff blank. It gives it a nice, clean look, all right? You don't need to cram everything in there, all right? So that's my point. Now, for those of you that weren't there on Monday, one of the things that I showed on Monday was how to take a map. This one was created for a print, right? To print it out or to distribute as a PDF, something that could be printable, right? The other thing you can do, oh, good comment. Thanks, Shay. She commented on how the colors of the scale bar and the north are all match my color scheme. Yeah, that's just one of those little touches. You can do some of these little things that can make a difference to make to draw it and make it more cohesive and easier on the eye. So it's not, one thing's not taking away the attention from another. Now, back to the slides. So if I'm going to prepare for a PowerPoint presentation, I might do something like this. Of course, the legend, I agree, is a little bit okay, it's too big, all right, but I didn't have time to go and change it today. But notice what I did here is I'm using the full space of the slide. If you are doing a presentation, this is your real estate. Use this part. Don't slap in a map you made for letter size 8.5 by 11 into a PowerPoint. Take a little time. You can use this full thing. Now, if you're doing a PowerPoint, you can easily do this by going, if you look on the, I think it's the design tab over on the right, it says slide size, and look on there and it'll tell you what the different sizes are. So for this, a widescreen slide, the default, set your page size in ArcMap or ArcPro, set your layout to 13.3 inches wide by 7.5 inches high. And you will get, and use that full thing as your canvas, and that will be the size of your slide, and put that map on there. Designed for your medium. Standard size is 10 inches by 7.5 inches. Also color. I'm a fan of darker colors. You may notice a lot of my slides, I have dark backgrounds and color schemes because I like how the dark makes my stuff stand out, my text and so forth. So this one might get a little washed up if I'm giving a big presentation, you know, after the big great pandemic that we're in right now, when we all get to go back to being live and have big screens behind us. This might get a little washed out, so you can play around with some colors, maybe go a little darker and see how it stands out. I'm not completely sure if these would be what I would use, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what can be done and what to think about. Think about these things, right? Design for your medium. Okay, another map. Let's go to the next map. I think I killed that one to death. Okay, this is a map that I actually did for a project I was working with in Oregon when I worked for the Council of Governments up there. It was right up here. It was in Corvallis, where Oregon State University is, and it was this yellow thing as a 3-county area, and we were doing this this big project talking about the state of the region, and this particular map talks about where people are coming from that move into the region. Now, I've always had a problem thinking about these Chloropleth maps and how can you, is this the best way to display that information? You know, to be honest, I really like this when I was proud of this map. I actually got the idea, I think, from somebody else, because remember one of my other tips is get inspired by others. I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of others. But I'm going to switch real quick so we can see just the map. All right. So this is just the map. Now notice, what do you see here, right? These are by county. So it's kind of misleading to me when we have a Chloropleth map. Our counties out here in the West are so much bigger than the counties over here. Now look, you have these blue, like Clark County or Las Vegas over here, only has between 1 and 50 that moved in. But Maricopa County is much smaller, and it had a lot more people. So it's kind of, you know, it's a little bit misleading. I know people are used to doing this, and we're used to making Chloropleth maps. And as a former demographer, I know these were like, I grew up making Chloropleth maps, basically. But I thought, how could I do this better? And so here's what we come up with. Something like this, okay? Put a dot at the centroids, and now look at how much easier it is. Look at, now I can clearly see right away there's more from Maricopa County than there is from Las Vegas area, from Clark County, and Mohave County for that matter, right? So it's easier on the eye. And then it's easier to understand, it's easier to see, and you may say, well, there's this big old cluster here, but that's the point. It's like, where's the majority of people coming from? They're coming from within their own area. And that kind of makes sense since this region is home to Oregon State University, so probably a lot of students coming there and going to school there. That's what I would imagine. But remember what I said? Get inspiration from others. I didn't come up with this myself because I'm not sure if I have an original idea because I get inspired by everybody else. But the credit goes to the Washington Post. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but a lot of people have. The Washington Post has great stuff and stats on with the COVID. And so this is really great. So it has the dots, like I showed you, at the county centroids. And then when you like hover over, a screenshot, yeah, it pops up this window, and then they have a little circle around the metric that you're looking at, and they have all the other information there. So it's really easy to understand, right? It's simple and it's easy to understand. Now, speaking of Colorblind maps, there's another one that I think is also genius. Okay, it's still color shading the counties, but look at this one by the New York Times. This one, I think, this is pretty clever. All right, so I want you to look here at, I don't know if you can see it real well, but Coconino County up here, right? So it's pretty big, and it has these little blotches of this orange, so which is right around in this area here. Now notice, so where does all this gray space? Well, when you read the notes at the bottom, what the graphic designers did there, where is my pointer? Okay. What the graphic designers at the New York Times did was they only shaded the parts of the county that have a population density above 10 people per square mile. So look at it, looks much more realistic, right? So it's not drawing all that attention to a huge land area with no people, right? And then of course, as you hover over again, it has, it has the information right there on the little hover map. So it's really, so get inspired and look at these other things. This is really clever and a really great way to show the information. Now there's other ways you can do instead of the Colorblind map. And I'm sure you guys have seen something like this. This is kind of, I think these are really fun, the Hexagon Map. I haven't really had an opportunity to use something like this because I haven't done a statewide, nationwide one in a while, but this is really clever. And so that's a hexagon, and there's also a version that's a tile map. And this one you can do in Excel, and this is actually, I have an Excel template that you can create this with, and it's pretty slick. And guess what? Guess who else is using this? Because, I'm going to get inspired. Johns Hopkins. So this is really cool. So here they are, and look how easy this is to understand. You have all the states, and they're in approximately the area where you would expect the states to be, right? And they have little spark lines in here that show new cases per day. They're running 7-day average. And the redder the square, the higher it's going. As it turns green, they're trending down. Really cool example of how to use this. So get inspired. Look at these different things. You can tell I get a little excited about these, right? All right, so I think this is really great. But one of the things, and this came up, I was scrolling through my Twitter feed because, okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was not really prepared for this workshop as I should have been, for this one. I was done, the one for Monday, I was pretty well polished. But this one, I was struggling with what I wanted to show you guys. How can I share more examples so you guys understand what's going on here and learn something? And so I was scrolling through my Twitter feed, and I came across this little tweet from James Chester, and he's talking about in these COVID briefings for COVID, and the scientists are up there and say, as you can see, and they talk about this map, and they're trying to explain the map, right? But what ended up happening was they ended up confusing. So what happened next, a journalist glommed onto this, grabbed it, and the way they read these maps was that things were getting better, when in fact they were not. The message was supposed to be things are more serious, but the journalist took away as things are getting better. And here, did I get, yeah, the next slide. So this shows the maps actually a little bit larger. But, I kind of struggled myself to try to understand what was going on here, but clearly this is the old one, and this is the current one, I think. Yeah. And so it shows how it's getting more serious in certain areas, but they weren't, if you can't explain it and convince people, you're going to confuse them, and you certainly don't want them to walk away from that. One of the things you can do is, share your map with a colleague or a friend who maybe is not in this, in the same, it's not a GIS professional, not a map person. See if they understand it, right? Find somebody that represents who your audience is and see if they can understand and explain it back to you. And, and be accepting of being able, having to make changes. Again, those are all in my tips. All right. So I know what you're asking yourself now, right? But Jamie, how do I choose the right visual? What do I know what to use? All right, so there's like It's not easy. Like I showed you before, sometimes I start with one and I've used it for a while and I think, well, I'm having to explain this chart too much, so maybe there's an easier way to do it. These on your screen are the top 12 most popular different types of visualizations, right? And I'm not going to go into each one of these, but just so you know, these are the top 12. But what I want to show you is, and I'm going to break out of this and open up I'm going to open up my browser. All right. You guys are seeing my browser now, yes? Somebody type yes or no in the chat. You better sleep. Oh, you woke up. Okay. All right. So this one, depict, and I'll give you these links, but it's depictdatastudio.com/charts. And this is really cool. This is a really cool website. You can choose which chart based on what you want to do. Do I have one point in time? Am I doing some comparison? And I can choose different things, right? It's really cool. And then I can click on one of these, like here's my current kind of fun thing, tile grid and hex map, right? And there's a little description here. There's resources. So if you click on any of these, it will give you it'll link to other websites with some information in a big blog about these. And then there's some examples of them in use. And then this is something new that I discovered the other day. I guess they're selling templates for $5. I have a template with a tile grid chart. If you email me, I will send it to you. So that's one thing. Did you pick Datastudio, where to find the best chart? Oops. You know what? They don't have that on their main menus anymore. So you just have to remember to type chart. I'm not sure where she hit it, but I have it bookmarked so I knew where it was. All right. Another thing, another way to really get started, I know I gave you the exercises. I'm giving you the exercises, which the button's already popped up now. But this storytelling with data. Now, this is another one. There's a book called Storytelling with Data by Cole Maflick. Anyway, still under hyphenated. She's awesome. The book is awesome. I gave away a copy last year at my hands-on workshop. This website, and there's also a book called Storytelling with Data, Let's Practice, and it's actually a workbook that will walk you through different exercises to practice making charts and making visualizations. If you come to Storytelling with Data, click on Participate, you'll get to this page, which is their community. It's free to join. Of course, you can pay to be a premium member if you want. I am not a premium member right now, but you get more features if you want to. But there's all these exercises on here. They do a monthly challenge. Anybody's willing to join. And if you remember that pie chart that I showed the example with the 3 with just the one gold highlighted I showed earlier about the women in STEM, I actually did that for one of the challenges here when it said they challenged to make a pie chart. And I thought, okay, I'll make one just to see if they don't make me angry anymore. But I was able to do one, as you could see. But anyway, this is another great resource. If you want practice, I highly recommend coming here and checking it out. And you can also get inspiration from what other people do. Another one we talked about on Monday, and hopefully most of you, hopefully all of you as GIS people know about, thank you, Shani, for putting that link in there. Most of you as GIS making maps, you should know about ColorBrewer, colorbrewer2.org. This is an excellent resource for getting colors for your map. If you need colorblind safe versions, print friendly and photocopy safe, I guess people still photocopy. And then it also shows you whether you're going to have roads on it and whatnot. You can make them different colors. It's a really cool little tool. And then the thing I like is you can export these colors into an Adobe, or if you're using GIMP to do some vector stuff, and I do a lot of Illustrator stuff. This is awesome because you can create your style and then it'll export the palette for you. It's pretty slick. So anyway, highly recommend ColorBrewer. And lastly, at least for my recommendations here, I talked about colorblind issues, and you know, I didn't realize it until I discovered someone in my office was colorblind. That they're this, you know, when you're not colorblind, you're not that you tend to forget this. You know, you don't think about it, right? But we need to think about it. We need to think about our audience. Here is this cool website called PopPo, and especially if you're doing web design or web sites. Unfortunately, I did try this with a story map that I did, but it wanted me to log in and it wasn't able to access the page, even though I had it public. I'm not really sure what that was about. But what happens is, and I am going to type musicsymposium.org, and I'm going to hit fetch, and hopefully this works quickly on my slow internet connection. But what's going to happen is, and I have a screenshot if this doesn't pull up, it's going to show you what it will look like in the in this type of code. So see how it is? So this is what I see. I'm not colorblind, and this is what somebody who has this red-green color blindness would see it. It looks more greenish to them. And you can switch it to like blue-yellow color blindness, and it will change it to you so you see what they see. This is pretty cool, I think. All right. So poptool.com/designers/color filter. And I think my Vanna will type that in for you, if she can do it. All right. I went through that one, I went through that one, I went through that one. Oh, this I wanted to show you. Let's go back up to my web browser. Go away. I'll just use this tab because that will things in my way. Okay, getting inspiration. We had so many great story maps submitted this year in the Maps and Apps Challenge. Well, actually, everything that was submitted this year was pretty cool. So everybody, I'm amazed at all the work that's going on out there. I don't know where you guys want to find the time. But if you need inspiration and you want some help, I highly recommend, this is the Esri's Arcgis Story Map competition site. But if you go here, of course you can submit for the 2020, but this is the part right here. Come over here to the Winners Gallery and start looking at some of these. These are so amazing for inspiration. They're just really amazing stories in here, and the way they use the technology is really cool and very inspiring. So I really encourage you to look at these things. If you're tasked with making a story map, go look at others before you get started so you kind of get excited. See how it could work in the story that you have to make. Same with the charts. Find a chart that looks good, and how can you adapt that to make yours better, right? I'm going to go back to my thing. Look at me, man. You can tell I want to go to happy hour. Kidding. No, I'm not kidding. All right. The greatest value of a picture is when it forces us to notice what we never expected to see. So, you know, like a picture's worth 1,000 words, but that's what you want your chart to do. That's what you want your visualization. You want your map. You want people to get that aha. You want them to understand what it is you're trying to tell them. What's your story? What is it you're trying to tell your audience? So don't forget that. And as I wrap through things, and I am whipping. Here are some resources. I did have some for the Monday one that are, some of these are the same, I think, as what I had on the Monday one, but there's some different ones here, and some that I want to really point out here. And maybe someday, if there's calls for it, I might actually do a presentation on how to make presentations, if anybody's interested in that, because this is one of the things that actually got me started down this whole path, was trying to make a better presentation, because I found myself presenting to managers and directors and all that, and they just were getting, they would just, their eyes would glaze over when I'd show up with all my slides with the words all over it and bullet points and the numbers and traffic counts, and it was just, I was like, okay, how can I get to them so they understand what I'm talking about, right? So this one got me started. Presentations Then by Gar Reynolds. He's got some great books. I can't recommend him enough. I would definitely get this book, and he's got a couple others, but the original is still the best. And Ology by Nancy Duarte. This was actually the one, I think this was the one where if you were there on Monday when I talked about a slidegument. So it's a slide and a document, so a slidegument. She's the one that coined that phrase, or at least that I know of coined it. And so hers is really, really well done too, because sometimes you have to have a balance between a document and slides, depending on what you're doing. And so that one's really good. So those two are really good if you're doing presentations. And again, I have some more stuff on here that I could go on. I have so many books that are just that I've learned so much from. They're just great. Okay, heavy sigh. It's now 4:18. Wow, I did good. And so this is my little contact info there. And so, did I miss any questions in the chat that you guys had? Oh, you would like to see a presentation on how to prepare? Okay, I'll start preparing something. I did do some of those at my previous job at MAG. I gave a couple of presentations, so I do have some stuff already started. Eric, Tableau, Google Data Studio, Arcgis Insights. What's the best tool for data visualization? Oh, that is an excellent question. Who has that? Eric. That's a great question. So I would have to say the best tool is the one that does the job that you need to do. I've used Tableau. I've tried Power BI. I haven't used Google Data Studio. Some of them have their pluses and minuses, and some of them have a large learning curve. There's just so much out there. I think you kind of have your pick. I think you just need to pick the one that works best for what you do. I know that's a non-answer, but that's basically what it comes down to. They all do similar stuff. What are good tells to know when a chart or map you have created is too complex and needs simplification? So how do you, basically you're asking how can you tell if your chart or map is too complex? If you have to explain it to people, if they can't see right away what's going on. I know math is kind of hard because you have so much information sometimes on a map, and it just has to. Sometimes it just ends up being that way, but it also depends on your audience. I think, yes, thanks, Cassia. A non-GIS person, try it. Okay, here's one tell. I did it, and I talked about this on Monday, because I had this really cool graphic that I made. I thought it was really cool. And it was population, and I forget how it was broken down, but it was just like a loop thing. It was like a circle, which was probably too close to a pie chart, now that I think of it. But it was just, I thought it was this really cool graphic, and I had this thing with its demographics, and I handed it over in this document to the urban planner in the office, and he's not a GIS guy, but he knows data and reports and all that, and he goes, what is this thing? What is this chart? And so I said, oh, can't you just see? It's this, 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 and this. It's showing you this. And he's like, what? I don't see it. So I had to explain it again, right? So I had to go back. I was a little bummed because I spent all this time, I thought it was a cool chart, but I had to redo it. I went to something simpler. So that's the way to do it. Are there any shortcuts to learning this? I make it seem so easy. Am I actually going to have to study this and practice? Yes. You don't have to say it, but you have to do it. So I think the shortcuts is maybe doing some of those little challenges, or, you know, me, I got thrown at by having to do a lot of presentations and doing a lot of, making a lot of charts. So I just had to do it. And if you got to make a map, take a little extra time. Yes, it takes some work and it's going to take time, but you'll find yourself getting easier at it as you go. You'll start seeing those things. You'll start seeing, wow, my scale bar is so big on that map. You know, these things will start clicking on you as soon as someone points something out to you. So yeah, you just have to do it. That's what I have to say. Work it, try it, and do it. Ellie asks, has anyone found a 4-color algorithm that works in ArcGIS Pro? I'm still amazed at this. This is into part of the Esri symbology. In older ArcMap versions, there were some DBAs at 4-colored polygons. Does anybody have an answer? Oh, Lucas has one. I converted a VB script to Python to do 4-color theorems. It's not perfect. I usually have 5 to 6 colors, but it's better than nothing. Oh, there you go. Lucas even put his lucasmarie@azdes.gov, and he will send it to you. You might need to send that out to everybody, Lucas. That sounds great. What else we got? You guys have some great questions in here and great stuff. I like learning from you guys. So does anybody else have any other tips? Did I miss something? What are good ways to tell? I think we got most everything here. Oh, I should stop sharing my screen. All right. Does anybody have anything else? You're welcome to. Yes, please take the survey for the session. Go over there. If you put in the comments about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of, it'll help me if, you know, if I happen to get roped into doing something like this again. Can we get a copy of the chat? I think so. I will try. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I don't really have much else. Unless anybody has any more questions, I'll be sticking around here watching the chat, or feel free to unmute and ask it. You guys are great. Lucas has a future lightning talk. Did he leave yet? Thanks, you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you got something out of it. And I expect to see good stuff. Email me your homework assignments, and I'll send you a little gift. I'll send you your own Data Viz Wiz pen. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see some of you guys over in the hospitality suite. I think I might I think I'll be making an appearance. You know, I'm so famous now. It's so fun. I'm just sitting here talking to an empty screen and watching text on there. It's kind of weird. I am an award-winning. The award-winning Jamie. From here on out, I'm changing my name to the award-winning Jamie. Kidding. Maybe not. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your attention. Yep, that does sum up 2020. Talking to a screen while we chat. I know. It's very rare. I can't wait till we can do this in person. Thank you, Shawnee, my co-host, or my chat helper.
Sure.
Thanks, Seth. I sure do too, Shannon. Look at me watching everybody leave. We get to see who just stayed on and didn't listen. No, just kidding. Wow, kind of. Anyway, thanks, Shawnee. I see, well, Jenna's still kind of there. I guess we can close out. We're 4 minutes early. People can pop over and get my exercises, do the survey.
Time to go party.